Welcome back to How to Train Your Dragon. This is Chapter 2 and Episode 3. So here's a picture of Snotlout. This is what he looks like. You can see he has a tattoo. Yeah, he's not too old, but he already has a tattoo. Cool, huh? Okay, inside the dragon nursery. You have probably guessed by now that Hiccup was not your natural Viking hero. For a start, he didn't look like a superhero or a hero. Somebody like Snotlout, for instance, was tall, muscly, covered in skeleton tattoos, and he already was beginning a small mustache. This consisted of a few straggly yellow hairs clinging to his upper lip and was deeply unpleasant to look at, but still impressively manly for a boy not yet 13. Hiccup was on the small side and had the kind of face that was entirely unmemorable. He did have heroic hair, which was very bright red and stood up vertically. However much you tried to wet it down with seawater, but nobody ever saw that because it was hidden under his helmet most of the time. You would never have picked Hiccup out of those 10 boys to be the hero of this story. Snotlout was good at everything and a natural leader. Dog's Breath. Dog's Breath was as tall as his father and could do amusing things like farting to the tune of Burke's national anthem. Hiccup was just absolutely average, the kind of unremarkable, skinny, freckled boy who was easy to overlook in a crowd. So, when Gobber blew the horn and moved out of sight to find a comfortable rock to sit on and eat his mussels and tomato sandwich, Snotlout pushed Hiccup out of the way and took charge. Okay, listen up, boys. He probably said it more like this. Okay, listen up, boys, he whispered in a menacing fashion. I'm in charge, not the useless. And anybody who objects gets a knuckle sandwich from Dog's Breath the Durbrain. Ugh, grunted Dog's Breath, pounding his fists together in happy excitement. Dog's Breath was Snotlout's chief sidekick and a great big gorilla of a boy. Bash him, Dog's Breath, to show him what I mean. Dog's Breath was delighted to oblige. He gave Hiccup a shove that sent him sprawling head first into the snow, then grounded his face in it. Pay attention, he hissed Snotlout. The boys dragged their eyes away from Dog's Breath and Hiccup and paid attention. Rope yourselves together. The best climbers should go first. Well, that's you, of course, Snotlout, said Fishlegs. You're the best at everything, aren't you? Snotlout looked at Fishlegs suspiciously. It was difficult to tell whether Fishlegs was laughing at him or not, because of his squint. That's right, Fishlegs, said Snotlout. I am. And just in case he had been laughing at him, bash him, Dog's Breath. While Dog's Breath pushed Fishlegs down to join Hiccup in the snow, Snotlout bossily ordered everybody to rope themselves together. Hiccup, Fishlegs were the last to be tied on, just behind a flushed and triumphant Dog's Breath. Oh, brilliant, muttered Fishlegs. I'm about to enter a cave full of man-eating reptiles tied up to 8 complete maniacs. If we get to the cave, said Hiccup nervously, looking up at the sheer black cliff. Hiccup put the lighted torch between his teeth and to leave his hands free and started climbing after the others. It was a perilous climb. The rocks were slippery with snow and the boys were thoroughly overexcited, making the ascent far too quickly. At one point, Clueless missed his footing and fell, luckily onto Dog's Breath, who caught him with the back of the trouser and heaved him back up onto the rock again, before he brought the whole lot of them down. When they finally made it to the mouth of the cave, Hiccup looked down briefly at the sea pounding the rocks way below and swallowed very hard. "Untie the ropes," ordered Snotlout, his eyes popping with excitement at the very thought of the dangers to come. "Hiccup goes into the cave first because he is the son of the chief," he sneered, "and if any of the dragons are awake, he'll be the first to know about it. Once we're in the cave, it's every man for himself. Only the strongest can belong." Although he wasn't your usual mindless thug of a hooligan, Hiccup wasn't a wimp either. Being frightened is not the same as being a coward. Maybe he was as brave as anyone else there, because he went to catch a dragon despite knowing what dragons are like. And when he had climbed perilously to the mouth of the cave and found that inside there was a long, twisty tunnel, he still went down it, despite not being too keen on looking on long, twisty tunnels with dragons at the end of them. The tunnel was dripping and clammy. At times it was high enough for the boys to walk upright. Then it would close down into narrow, claustrophobic holes that the boys could only just squeeze through. Squirming on their stomachs, with the flares held in their mouths. After 10 long minutes of walking and crawling into the heart of the cliffs, the stench of dragons, a salty stink of seawater, and old mackerel heads got stronger and stronger until finally it became unbearable and the tunnel opened out into a ginormous cave. The cavern was full of more dragons than Hiccup could ever have imagined existed. They were every possible color and size, and they included all the species that Hiccup had heard of, and quite a few more that he hadn't. Hiccup started sweating at the look as he looked around at the pile after pile of the animals, draped over every available surface, even hanging upside down from the roof like giant bats. They were all fast asleep, and most of them were snoring in unison. This was a sound so loud and so deep that it seemed to penetrate right into Hiccup's body and vibrate around his soft insides, churning his stomach and bowels and forcing his heart to beat at the same slow dragon pulse. If just one of these countless creatures were to wake up, it would raise the alarm to the others and the boys would meet a horrible death. Hiccup had at once seen a deer that had wandered too close to Wild Dragon Cliff, torn to pieces in a matter of minutes. Hiccup closed his eyes. "I will not think about it," he said to himself. "I will not." None of the other boys were thinking about it. Ignorance is very useful in such circumstances. Their eyes were popping with excitement as they walked through the cave, hand over their noses to keep out the revolting smell, looking for the biggest dragon they could find that would fit in their baskets. They left the torches in a pile at the entrance. The cavern was already well lit by the glowworms, huge, sluggish animals dotted here and there that shone with a steady yet dim fluorescence, like a low-watt light bulb, and the flame huffers gave each extra little burst of light that flickered on and off as they breathed in and out. Predictably, most of the boys headed towards the plug uglies of the dragon world. Snotlout made a big fuss about grabbing a vicious-looking monstrous nightmare, smiling nastily at Hiccup as he did so. Snotlout was the son of Baggybum the Beer-belly, Stoic the Vast's younger brother. He was intending to get rid of Hiccup sometime in the future so that he, Snotlout, would become the chief of the Hairy Hooligans tribe. And a gruesome and terrifying chief, as Snotlout meant to be, would need a properly awesome dragon. Warty Hog and Dog's Breath got into a loud whispering fight over a cronkle and a heavily armored brute with fangs like kitchen knife sticking out in such number that it couldn't keep its mouth shut. Dog's breath. One then managed to drop it as he was trying to bundle it into his basket. The weaponry of the beast made a horrible, loud clatter as it landed on the floor of the cavern. The Gronkle opened its evil crocodile eyes. Everybody held their breath. The Gronkle stared ahead. It was difficult to tell from its blank expression whether it was awake or fast asleep. Hiccup realized, in an agony of suspense, that the gossamer thin third eye was still down. And there it stayed for a few heart-stopping moments until it slowly closed its upper eyelid again. Amazingly, not one of the other dragons woke up. A few grumbled groggily before making themselves comfortable again, but most were in such a stupor that they barely stirred. Hiccup let out his breath slowly. Maybe these dragons were so dead to the world that nothing would wake them. He swallowed hard, muttered a prayer to Loki, the patron saint of sneaky exploits, and edged forward cautiously to grab the most unconscious-looking dragon so he could get out of this nightmare as fast as possible. Let's go back and look at that. So, the Gronkle, this is what it looks like. The Gronkle, I think it's Gronkle, is the plug ugly of the dragon world. But what it lacks in looks, it makes up for on the battlefield. They can be slow and, dare I say it, stupid, and sometimes they get so fat that they are unable to take off. They are also prone to dragon acne. Colors: snot green, bogey beige, and pooey brown. Armed with all the best in dragon weaponry, things like daggers, extra spikes on necks. I think that's bells with, or I'm not really sure. I think it says a bull with spikes on the end of the tail. Oh, a bull. Okay, fear factor. 7. Attack 8. Speed 8. Size 7. Disobedience 5. And we will continue here on the next episode.